For those of you who are new to this build project, welcome along. For everybody who has been following along with the build, welcome back. We're well over 2 years into this build. I will give you all a recap of where we are at, and for those new viewers, I can bring you up to speed. Firstly, let's take a look at the body shell. We have two different cars that make up this project. This build has taken the name of 206 WRX, so by now you will have noticed the body shell is based on a Peugeot 206. I bought a 2005 1400 Sport. It was a 3-door and had no sunroof. However, the heart of this project is based on a Subaru Impreza, a 2003 GD WRX. The Subaru was in a bit of a state when I bought it. However, it had good bones. It had the EJ205 2-litre engine and a 5-speed manual gearbox. Initially, this build consisted of a full strip down of both of those cars. I was extremely careful taking the Subaru apart as I didn't know what parts I wanted to keep. However, the Peugeot was brutalised, to be honest. All I wanted was the body shell and a few electrical components, along with the wipers, windscreen and the body panels. Within very few weeks I was already cutting apart the shell. You see, my plan from the get-go was to shorten the wheelbase of the Subaru so the Peugeot body shell could sit directly on top. This meant I had to shorten the chassis of the Subaru by 80mm. This was done by a careful cut across the floor pan of the car, keeping the tunnel uncut and intact. Once the Subaru shell had been shortened and welded back together, I proceeded to cut the Peugeot in half from the firewall all the way to the back of the car. This allowed me to sit the Peugeot body shell directly on top, retaining all of the strength in the A pillars, the B pillars and the sills. Once I had the Peugeot and the Subaru tacked together, I could crack on with this multi-point roll cage. This cold drawn steel cage is built to MS UK regulations. Using the correct size tubing, I even took the roof skin off to get the welds all the way around the top of the cage. In 20 weeks I managed to get to the point where I'd fabricated the cage and got the interior in some paint. Once the body shell was in paint, I dug the engine out of the garden and I stripped it down, ready for the rebuild. By this point it was time to start the design of the aero and the body panels. All of the panels are made from scratch from GRP moulds, apart from the bonnet, the roof and the boot. As you can see, the bonnet also houses some modifications, these air vents and aero catchers. These custom body panels took over 7 months to build. This includes the 4-piece GRP wing. Even though I have retained this blue part of the rear bumper, I have added the diffuser and the arch vents. You may have noticed the rather large air intake on the side of the car behind the door. The radiator is in the boot. For those of you with a keen eye will have noticed which engine I've opted for, the Subaru over the Peugeot. As I said before, the engine started life as an EJ205 standard WRX motor. At this stage now, after 2 years, it has had some work. It now has a closed deck block, meaning the cylinder liners are reinforced. In essence, there is an aluminium machine block that is pressed into the engine block to strengthen the gap between the side of the engine block and the boards itself. This allows the engine to have the potential of running a lot of horsepower. It has been converted to a 2.1 stroker with forged internals. As you can see in the engine bay, there is not a lot of space with the size of the Peugeot front end. So the radiator is now in the boot. The intercooler has been relocated to the front of the engine. This is purely for aesthetics. I did not want the Subaru scoop in the Peugeot bonnet. The air conditioning has been deleted. I have fitted oversized injectors. We're now running a parallel fuel system. The 5-speed gearbox has been fitted with a lightweight flywheel and heavy duty clutch. As you can see, the power steering reservoir has been relocated due to lack of space. I have made a custom air intake. The rest of the engine bay is pretty normal for Subaru. The anti-lock brake system has now been deleted. All of the excess weight has been removed from the bonnet and the boot lid. As you can roughly see in the boot, it is laid out for the rear mounted radiator. This large high flow radiator is set to be at an angle. Airflow comes through the air intake on the side and up under the radiator. There is a fan that is mounted on the top that blows the cold air out of the back of the car through these vents. I have made a custom aluminium flocked 3-piece dashboard that houses the stock Subaru Speedo cluster. The steering column mount has been fabricated from the roll cage bar that runs under the dashboard and holds this turn 1 steering wheel. All of the electrical controls of the car will be controlled on this centre console. I have fitted a short shifter to the gear stick and installed a hydraulic handbrake with a bias valve. The fuel system hosts a 1.5 litre swirl pot and an external high flow pump. We also have a Craig Davis water pump to pump the water that cools the engine from the back to the front of the car. This large object in the centre of the car is in fact the spare wheel holder. Due to restrictions on space in the engine bay and having the radiator in the boot, means this was the only viable place to have a spare wheel. In case I didn't make it obvious, this is the back of the car, that is a differential, and it is all-wheel drive. By retaining the entire floor pan of the Subaru, it has allowed me to keep all the factory mounting points for the suspension and the drivetrain. The doors for the car have been prepped, lightened and fitted with polycarbonate windows. The seat rails and harness mounts have all been fabricated when I built the chassis. So that's you basically up to speed on the build. If you are new to this channel, there are over 100 videos of the nut and bolt build of this car. I will leave a link in the top corner for the first video. Up until this point, I've been releasing a weekly video, putting them out on Wednesday every single week. I have been automatically uploading videos about a month in advance. Right now though, you have caught up with the build, so I'm just going to release videos as and when I do them. Hopefully I can create more content and give you more than one video a week. I will post them out randomly, so make sure you hit that notification bell. If you are new, subscribe to the channel so you can keep up to date. That being said, I will see you very soon.